Steps to nowhere. This is true to the best of my knowledge. In every town, you will hear footsteps, voices from people that are not there. In every town, you will find burnt and abandoned houses tucked away in dark woods. There will be stories and even claims like mine. Somewhere in that town, you will find a staircase that leads to nowhere, and in every town you will find missing person posters hanging on drugstore walls. Now, let's be clear, I am not saying this happens to every missing person case. Some do run off, find another way, or rebel against the life they were dealt. We're humans, after all, emotional creatures, with hopes and dreams, and we hope to see, no, we want to see the world our way. The world has changed for many. When we went from being people to company brands, somewhere some bureaucrat thought we should sell the person and not the life to the world. I guess it worked for a little while. Sandy was a local girl. Her mother said she was a rebellious child with a heart of gold, to her friends and family. The summer before the incident, I and Sandy became fast friends. After all, she lived right beside me. We seemed to have the same interests. This was one thing that I found very hard to find in this town, someone I could talk to, someone like me. Most of the first summer was spent walking in the woods, talking and taking pictures with no interruptions from grown-ups. In a way, in nature we were the oldest, the wisest, or so we thought. In our own way, we did feel grown up. Being able to live 17 years, in this world, one needs a medal, pinned right to his chest, a little button that says I survived childhood. No matter how old you got, people didn't think you were an adult, until you worked a 9-to-5 job and had a few kids. Now that would earn you some gray hairs, well after the kids had made it to 3 or 4 years old anyway. I still say kids need a medal, for dealing with their parents. Now that's a hard job. Back then, I could see me spending my life with Sandy. She was special, maybe too special. From what seemed like yesterday, I and the girl of my dreams decided to venture a little farther into a place, called by the locals the Big Woods. This unfamiliar set of woods had been the subject of many legal fights and battles between the Catholics and the Baptists churches. Without diving into the exciting world of land claims and wills, an older lady had passed away, that was in possession of this property. She was a devoted Catholic, but when she got married her husband converted her to his faith. In her will, she stated the land will go to my faith, both faiths and its followers. I feel that each should work together to turn this into a wonderful place of happiness for everyone. In closing, she said, my heart is with the Catholics and my mind is with the Baptist. The land itself was worth a great deal and caused a stir in the religious community. In the end, the churches could not come to an agreement on how to use the land, so the woods became a darker place, a place filled with trash, needles and wine bottles from the occasional vagabond. I guess in the end, it became a haven for the lost. The night before, that Saturday morning, we got an unusual amount of rain. The ground was still wet and the leaves were shining. I always liked the morning after a rain, it gave everything a special shine. Sandy's mother had insisted she learn to play a musical instrument. Oddly, she fell in love with the pan flute, the sounds, the stories behind it, the songs of old, the ones that would bring out the beast god Pan, out of his slumber. I didn't argue when she played the pipe. When she did, the sound was haunting and magical. Visions of lost faraway places crept into my mind, waterfalls and staircases. At times I even imagined Sandy bathing under a waterfall in a magical place and I was the beast Pan watching her from afar. I had packed us a lunch and grabbed my camera. The local kids would talk about a large oak tree, called the elephant tree. This large old creature stood at the center of the big woods. It is said this is the largest tree in town. As the story goes, in years past the tree was the heart of the woods. From one angle it looked like an elephant, from another, one could see a man and women locked in an embrace. Long before the world was large, a witch would make offering to the woods, or to something in the woods, One night she found a man trying to cut down the heart of the woods. For his crimes she locked him in the elephant tree. Many days later the witch was making another offering to the thing in the woods. The man's wife, in a hunt for her husband, stumbled onto the witch and the large fire beside the tree. To the witch she said the woman saw the man's axe. The woman asked the witch what had become of her husband. Without hesitation she told the truth and pointed at the face in the tree. Tears fell from the women's faces, just as the rain did the night before, running over to the face of her husband, running her hands over his face and the tree, screaming why. She bent down to kiss his wooden lips. Looking back she screamed at the witch, "Why would you do such a thing?" Beating on the tree, she once again kissed her husband's lips. Large branches from the tree wrapped around the women, pulling her in, absorbing her, reclaiming what nature had given. Something was off about that Saturday. Patches of fog were here and there as we walked toward the center of the woods, where the large tree awaited us. Acorns streamed down like missiles hunting targets. Little things jumped from tree to tree, looking hard to see what was in the tree. You could see a hint of gray on a tail as one jumped. There were squirrels bombing us with acorns. Sandy joked, "I guess the squirrels don't like visitors," but deep down, and at least for a moment, I thought this was a warning of some kind. Maybe this was a way of saying, "Stay away from here, you stupid humans." To be frank, I have never experienced anything like that. 1 or 2 acorns sure, but hundreds at a time over and over? It's highly unlikely they would all fall at the same time. It's simple, the squirrels didn't want us there. One of the acorns hit Sandy's hand so hard she started to bleed. Blood dripped from her hand. I pointed and said, "You're bleeding," and calmly she said, "Maybe music will soothe the beasts." Pulling out her pan flute, she played a magical tune I have never heard before. The acorns stopped falling, and the woods fell quiet once more. Looking back, maybe the music didn't stop our attackers. Maybe she woke something up from its slumber, something the squirrels had tried to warn us about. Looking over at me, she said, "Did you hear that?" Puzzled, I said no. Wiping the blood from her hand, she said something told her to climb higher and take another step. Looking back, something was definitely special about the woods. When Sandy played, the trees moved as if they were dancing in the wind. Their branches moved back and forth as if they were motioning us to come or move forward. Our nice morning had turned out, and where it had rained it was humid, even stifling at times. That's such a strange feeling, as if nature is giving you a hug from hell. Growing up I learned, we were just visitors in this world. We really don't know or understand much of the things that unfold around us. As the human race grew, nature fought us. We converted and tricked the world into changing, to suit our needs of normalcy and our ever-growing slothful lifestyles. Somehow our relationship with nature reminds me of the old woman, her will, and the battle for the woods. 2 sides fighting for 2 very different things. In the end, what will be left is a dark, forgotten world, which no one will ever want. And what would you find in such a world? Bits and pieces of the people that lived there, old burnt falling in houses and steps to nowhere. Speaking of steps to nowhere, it was about lunchtime on this very hot Saturday afternoon. We decided to have lunch by the tree. It was true what the kids had said, and you could see faces and even an elephant trunk, along with the side where singular symbols that seemed to grow or were raised out of the tree. They looked natural. We ate our lunch and spoke of things we wanted to do with our lives, the hopes and the dreams of childhood, and then something caught my eye: a staircase, a stone staircase. Nature had reclaimed the house that was built around it, but now it was a moss-covered, majestic reminder of people who lived off the land, who tried to take a seat at nature's table. Maybe this was the home of the witch or the man and women trapped in the tree, Sandy said with a smirk. "Hey, grab your camera, I want you to take a picture of me on top of the staircase if I can climb to the top." Wondering if this was a good idea, I did as I was asked. She took her first step onto the moss-covered stone. I remember her saying how warm each step felt under her feet. I snapped a picture. She took another step and another, and she was almost to the top of the staircase. Fear got the better of me and I shouted at her, "Maybe you should come down, that they may cave in or something." Looking back at me, I knew something was wrong. She said something was telling her to take each step, climb higher and take another. She said, I don't feel like I am in control of my body, my legs looking back again at me with glowing green eyes, maybe it was the light or something more, but her eyes glowed as if they were on fire. A glow of a lightning bug on a summer night. My bones burned with the knowledge that something was wrong. I swear to you, that I begged her to come down with every part of my being, but she took that last step and time froze. Sandy just faded away, looking back at me with her glowing eyes. She was there and then she wasn't, she just faded away into the nothingness. Puzzled, scared, I searched for her, called her name, thinking she was playing a trick on me. The night rolled in rather quick. When I decided it was time to find help, I made my way back to my house, worried and confused. The way looked different at night for some reason. On the way to my house, I decided it was best to go to her house first and tell her mother she had vanished. In the back of my mind I still hoped that this was still just an evil trick. I knocked on her door, almost beating it down with my fists. As tears dripped down my face, an old man, one I had never seen before, opened the door. "Son, what's wrong?" he asked. "It's Sandy. Is her mother here? She has gone missing," I managed to get out between breaths from running home. "Sandy?" The old man's voice started to change. "Is this some type of joke, son?" "No sir," I responded. "Sir, me and Sandy were up in the woods, taking pictures and having lunch, when she climbed up a set of steps and vanished. I know I sound crazy, mister, but it happened. I need to tell her mother and we need to get help to find her." "Son, I think you are confused. I do believe something happened, just from the way you're carrying on, but the only Sandy I know, and I have lived here for a very long time, is my wife. This was her house, he and her mother's. Sandy owned them woods up there. Maybe you got hurt up there or hit your head or something. Where do you live, son?" the old man asked. "Right there, sir, right beside this house." Looking over, I pointed at the lot beside Sandy's house, and all that was there was a stone staircase leading to nowhere. This started my life, my grown-up life as a wandering, soulless writer trapped between heaven and hell, now a man without a world. Interruptions from grown-ups. In a way, in nature we were the oldest, the wisest, or so we thought. In our own way, we did feel grown up. Being able to live 17 years, in this world, one needs a medal, pinned right to his chest, a little button that says "I survived childhood." No matter how old you got, people didn't think you were an adult, until you worked a 9-to-5 job and had a few kids. Now that would earn you some gray hair. Steps to nowhere. This is true to the best of my knowledge. In every town, you will hear footsteps, voices from people that are not there. In every town, you will find burnt and abandoned houses tucked away in dark woods. There will be stories and even claims like mine. Somewhere in that town, you will find a staircase that leads to nowhere, and in every town you will find missing person posters hanging on drugstore walls. Now, let's be clear, I am not saying this happens to every missing person case. Some girl, her mother said she was a rebellious child with a heart of gold, to her friends and family. The summer before the incident, I and Sandy became fast friends. After all, she lived right beside me. We seemed to have the same interests. This was one thing that I found very hard to find in this town, someone I could talk to, someone like me. Most of the first summer was spent walking in the woods, talking and taking pictures with no do run off, find another way, or rebel against the life they were dealt. We're humans, after all, emotional creatures, with hopes and dreams, and we hope to see, no, we want to see the world our way. The world has changed for many, when we went from being people to company brands. Somewhere some bureaucrat thought we should sell the person and not the life to the world. I guess it worked for a little while. Sandy was a local girl.